Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. A couple of weeks ago, there was a big controversy on the goth side of YouTube after YouTuber Snowy Loader made a video saying that you could be goth and not like the music. And after Angela Benedict made a response video, there was a firestorm of controversy among many goth YouTubers online. And as a darkly inclined person, I'm inclined to agree with Angela Benedict because as someone who has been darkly inclined for over 20 years, I can honestly say that you can't be goth without the music. Because when I was writing the 3 books in the Spinsterella trilogy, and I started out with Spinsterella, I started listening to the music to get a better understanding of the subculture. Because when I came in, I only knew the subculture from what I had learned back in the late 80s and early 90s, watching Tim Burton films and watching talk shows like Jenny Jones. That's how I primarily learned about goths overall, was from Tim Burton films and Jenny Jones. I didn't know them from any other form of media. And the only way you can really understand a subculture is when you start listening to the music. Because I started with Spinsterella and I started listening to the music as I was writing the book. I started getting a better understanding of things. And it wasn't really until I wrote Spellbound that I started to really understand the importance of the music, because I started understanding the meaning of what was in the songs and what was said between the lines of those songs. Because the reason why the book is titled Spellbound is because of the Susie and the Banshees song Spellbound, and what that song meant to me and how I saw what she was talking about in that song. Because what people need to understand about goth music is that there is a message in the music, and if you don't listen to the music, you won't understand what the subculture is about and what it is celebrating about the darker side of life. A lot of darkly inclined people, they see the visual side of goth and they like the visual part of it. However, to really understand it, you have to understand the music, and the music is integral to the subculture, because goth is a music-based subculture. It's a music-based subculture that came out of the United Kingdom in the 1970s. And in order to really understand the bigger picture of the subculture, you have to understand what the music is and what the music means to people. Now, a lot of people, who come into the subculture, they were just like me when I was writing Spinsterella coming in, and they think it's just a couple of basic bands like Bauhaus and Susie and the Banshees. But over time, as I've been writing these books in the trilogy, I've come to learn more about different bands and even different styles of music like EBM, industrial, and even finding hip-hop music that was goth. That's how far deep I have learned, about this music, because the music goes far beyond, 1980s rock and roll bands and goth bands. It goes deeper, far into different forms of music, and that's how I even found out about goth hip-hop bands, and how I even found out things like new wave and other bands, because the first song I ever heard that was considered goth, I didn't know it was considered goth way back in 1989 when I was about 15 years old, was the Love and Rockets song So Alive. And that was another song I featured in the novel Spellbound, because that was a song that really meant something to me back in the late 1980s. And as I listened to it again, I began to understand the meaning of that song. And a lot of people, they look at the subculture, but they're thinking that about it from the fashion perspective, but it's the music that inspires everything. And the music was one of the core things that inspired me when I was writing Spellbound and Spinsterella, and the recent book in the trilogy that I'm working on right now, The Legendary Mad Matilda. In order for me to write those 3 books, I had to listen to the music, and I had to listen to a lot of different music in order to really understand, what they're talking about, because music is not just to entertain. This is what a lot of people who are who don't really like the music don't understand. Music is not just there to sound good and feel good. These are people trying to convey a message to you, and they're trying to tell you something about life and make a commentary about life in the same way that a writer like myself tries to make a commentary about life when I'm writing a book like a Spinsterella, a Spellbound, or Legendary Mad Matilda, where I'm talking about an African American goth and their experiences in the subculture. So when a person is making music, they are making a statement about how they see the world and how they see things. And in order for people to really understand what goth is, they have to listen to the music and understand, what the music is. Because as a writer myself, I put messages in stories between the lines, and I make commentary about things. And in order for people to understand that commentary, they have to really sit down and read something not just once, but they have to read it maybe twice or three times, and they'll really start to understand, what I'm talking about. And I understand why that music is important and why it's important for people to value the music, because again, the music is the foundation of the subculture. It is the foundation of why people are coming together and why people see the beauty in many of these dark things, because everything started with the music in the same way everything started with the music regarding hip-hop. Now, as a guy who is darkly inclined, I have also listened to a lot of hip-hop, as a preteen and a teen, because back in the 80s, that's when rap was emerging. And in order to understand what rap is, you have to listen to the music, because there's a lot of guys who are what they call posers in the black community and even outside the black community who like the look and aesthetic of hip-hop, but they don't understand what those guys are talking about. When I'm listening to a guy like a Public Enemy or a Rakim or a Cool G Rap or even many of the old school rappers, they used to put messages in between the lines of their music. And when you're young, you really don't hear it, but when you get older, you really start to understand what those people are saying in their music. Because in order to, again, understand the hip-hop and rap culture, you have to really listen to the music in the same way you have to listen to the music for the goth subculture. Because in order to be a part of that subculture, you really have to listen to that music to get a better understanding of why people are coming together around that music. And when I look at the subculture, the big places that people go for the music are like places like the Wave Gothic Treffen. I mean, people are coming together because they want to hear the music and they want to be around people who like the music. So to say that you can be goth without the music, that's just not possible from what I have seen and what I have learned about the goth subculture. Without the music, you really have nothing to have everybody come together around. A lot of people today, because of the goth generation gap, as I see it, they're coming into the subculture based on things like fashion and the visual things that they see, because a lot of millennials come in because they see goth YouTubers doing things like these clothing hauls and these makeup hauls, and they see all this other content. But that's what everybody's some of the older goths like Angela Benedict are concerned about, because what's happening is the music is winding up becoming lost to people, and the meaning of the music is getting lost to people because everybody who's younger is coming in based on what they're seeing visually. And that's, again, goes back to one of the videos I made a couple of months ago talking about this goth generation gap, because older goths came in with the music, whereas younger goths are coming in not really with the music, because this also ties into why we are seeing a decline in a lot of goths coming to places like the clubs, because again, goth is still a music-based subculture, and a lot of people are still sitting there. They think that they're coming in from watching YouTube videos, from seeing pictures on Instagram, seeing content that is more visual, and then the core components are getting lost. And that's why a lot of people are struggling with clubs, and the clubs are struggling because people don't understand that there is a music component and a social component to the goth subculture, because a lot of people came together to the clubs to listen to the music, or they came to house parties, or they came to raves to listen to the music. And that's getting, a lot of people, older goths feel like that's getting lost in all of this commercialism that has been permeating the goth subculture for the last, I'd say, about 2-3 years, as I have been, as I've been observing from the distance. Because when I first came in, a lot of people, they were just, that's what I saw a lot of, and I didn't see very much content talking about, really deep substantive things, until I really started watching other goth YouTubers like Angela Benedict, who was talking about her experiences and the history of the subculture and how it related to her. And we really need more people to talk about, you know, deeper, more substantive content on the goth subculture, because that's how we teach and pass that on to the next generation. Because again, I see that goth generation gap that I talked about in a previous video, and this is another aspect of it when people say, I can be goth without the music, and that's, as I see it, not possible. Because from what I have learned, just sitting and talking to different goths online and connecting with different goths online and watching their videos, I can honestly say that yes, the music is integral to the subculture, and that's a major component of it. You can't be goth without the music. And as a darkly inclined person, I can clearly say to you, yeah, I'm a person who lives on the dark side of life, but I wouldn't understand anything about the goth subculture, and I haven't understood anything until I started writing the books in the Spinsterella trilogy, until I started learning more and more about the music. And that's what really inspired me to write those other books in the trilogy, Spellbound, because again, that book's title comes from the Susie and the Banshee song, and Legendary Mad Matilda, that came partially from the London After Midnight song, When Good Girls Go to Die. So I learned from the music. That's what really inspired me. That's what really motivated me to keep writing the books in the trilogy. And if you try the music, you're going to learn more about the subculture, and that's something that a lot of younger goths really need to come in and start giving it a try, because goth is not just the bands of the 80s like your Susie and the Banshees, your Bauhaus, and your Cure. It is also many other bands out there like your Love and Rockets, even though they're still 80s. And there are other forms of goth music, and all you have to do is give it a try, and you might find something you like. And there's even goth hip-hop out there, because I remember listening to the Kings of Pressure song, Tales from the Dark Side, and that, when I looked at that music video, back in the 80s, I just said it was just an ordinary rap video. But as I looked at it again, I began to say, this is a goth video. Because you look at the way they present this video and the music in it, this is a goth video. So there are goth rap groups out there, and there's a whole host of great goth music out there. And you have to give it a try, and you might find something you really like. If you'd like to try some of the books in the Spinsterella trilogy, such as Spinsterella, Spellbound, and the upcoming Legendary Mad Matilda, you can head over to Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to help me make some more videos, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.